Thank you for joining us, everyone. We're excited to continue our Executive Leadership webinar series with you today with Executive Leadership Coach Tim Ressmeyer. I'm Mary Vandenplas, Senior Manager of Operations here at Burtch Works. A few quick logistics items before we dive in. Only the presenters will be speaking, so your phones and microphones are muted. There will be a short Q&A at the end of the webinar, so I'll be collecting your questions via the chat function on the left side of your screen, where you can submit your questions for Tim. If you experience any technical issues, submit those through the chat box as well. Finally, today's session is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel shortly after completion. So if you missed part of it or would like to share it with a colleague, you're welcome to do so. I would like to introduce Tim Ressmeyer, founding partner at Ressmeyer Partners. Tim has put his considerable experience as a quantitative executive to use in his coaching services company. He has previously held leadership positions at Starcom Worldwide, IRI, SPSS, IBM, and Mintel. Now Tim shares his insights with executives and companies around the globe and has partnered with Burtch Works to extend his considerable expertise to our network. Over to you, Tim.
Thanks so much, Mary. It's certainly a pleasure to be here, and thanks to everyone who's jumping in, and I'm seeing lots of familiar names out there. So this is a lot of fun. Mary, do I have control to advance? There we go. Okay, great. So we're going to talk about transitions today, and transitions are inevitable. And whether in our personal or professional lives, there's going to be frequent change. Sometimes that change is in our control, and sometimes it isn't. We choose, though, how we show up during change. Sometimes we bring about the change ourselves. We leave a relationship, we quit a job. Other times it's foisted upon us, like getting fired or getting dumped. Sorry, it's a little clunky on this end. I apologize. Okay, you might decide to move on because the environment isn't working for you. Management changes might result in your position getting eliminated. Or as your career evolves, you decide that a pivot might be in order. Although market research and data science jobs are a good place to be, there is still change all the time. And we don't just face change, we create change. Let me say that again. We don't just face change, we create change. Everyone responds to change differently. Some take it in stride and some get stressed. Because of the different ways you respond to change, sometimes you avoid making a move because you are risk averse, and then wind up wondering why you're still in the same place for longer than you might like. Sometimes you change often, and the things don't work out because you repeat decisions that continue to not serve you. These are all normal situations that can be exciting or frightening, depending on where you are in your career and how you view change. Personally, I've undergone a lot of transitions. Some were by choice, and to be honest, some were not. Some were painful and took a long time to process or recover from, and others were almost immediately positive, and the reward was clear. I was unceremoniously let go from a senior position around the same time that my 22-year marriage was ending. Going through a divorce and a job search at about the same time highlighted the similarities of both experiences. And from it, I've created a model of understanding transition that draws the parallels between, get ready for it, between dating and the job search. As an aside, a whole chapter in my forthcoming book, The Impact of Confidence, 7 Secrets of Success for the Human Side of Leadership, develops this theme more than I can go into today. But just a little self-promotion. I do have a book coming out in the next 4 weeks. So let's talk about today. Today we're going to be talking about how to set yourself up for success during these times of transition. We're going to overview the 4 stages of transition. We're going to talk about the consequences of failing to embrace these stages. And we're going to really dig into one of the stages, which I call writing your profile, or developing your resume. And then, as Mary said, we'll have time for the live Q&A. I know that most of you are content and perfectly satisfied in your current roles, and that's great. I also know that there's some of you who are actively looking for something else, and there are those who are in the, if something were to pop up, I'd consider it place. This model will help you, no matter where you are, to think differently about how you manage your own personal transitions. Okay, let's talk about the 4 stages. There are 4 stages that everyone has to go through as they transition from one job or relationship into another. And I've used this framework with dozens of clients I've coached as they navigate job transitions, and by drawing the connection with dating, it's helped them to remain highly conscious and successful in their changes. Stage 1 is the breakup, and that's when you're leaving a job by choice or by not, or your choice or not. Second is writing your profile. Think Match.com equals writing your resume. The third is the interviewing. You're actually out there dating. You're moving away from your computer and into meeting real people. And finally, number 4 is going exclusive. And that's where you go ahead and you accept a role. So as we go through the webinar, I'm going to be going back and forth between the job search and dating parallels. So bear with me. Failing to embrace the stages of change can lead to a lot of different difficulties. Protracted pain, rebound job hunting, where you wind up in the same place, or you spend time settling and just staying with a job or a relationship that's not right for you. None of those are enjoyable. So what we want to do is look at that differently, is to go ahead and understand the 4 stages so that you don't land up in one of those places. And today we're going to focus on most of our time on stage 2, writing your profile or your resume. If there's interest, I'll be able to dig into the other stages in more detail in subsequent webinars. But first, let's give a little bit of context to the other 3 stages. The breakup. Every new transition starts with the breakup. Whether brought on by you or the other party, there is a breakup. You give yourself time to feel the emotions during this stage, the sadness, anger, joy, hopefulness, etc. You look back and you realize that you were in that relationship for a reason. Why were you there? What did you learn? What was the value during you were there? Then on to the 3rd stage, which will in between is the number 2 that we're going to talk about today. But the 3rd stage is all about dating or interviewing. How do you show up? You've done a lot of work in stage 2. How do you present yourself in the best way possible? How do you handle the ups and downs of success and rejection? What happens to your energy when this stage seems to go on and you just can't find the right next opportunity? Finally, stage 4, going exclusive. You're accepting a role. There might be other options still on the table. How do you know when to accept one and turn off the search? There will always be more fish in the sea. Am I accepting this role for the right reasons? How do you avoid the buyer's remorse or the feeling as you step into the new role that it wasn't what you expected it to be? All right, so we're going to be talking about writing your profile, stage 2. And this is where the heavy lifting really does take place. You've gone through all the emotions in stage 1 of the breakup, and now you're looking at yourself. You do have a lot to offer. Mentally and emotionally, be sure you are moving towards something and not just away from something. Let me say that again. Be sure you are moving towards something and not just away from something. When clients come to me and they say, I hate my job, get me out of here, I know that they are not ready to start interviewing or talking to prospective companies. They're mad, they're hurt, they're frustrated. No one wants to hire someone who is angry or desperate. To be honest, it's just not attractive. If you have spent time in phase 1 breakup, you have felt the emotions, you've acknowledged why you were in that role to begin with, you started to identify what you do and you don't want in your next position. You realize that staying in this place won't work. Committing to the hard yet rewarding work of following the steps that follow to increase the probability of success. You're committed to the process of moving forward and not doing the knee-jerk movement. So back a while ago, online dating was still relatively new and had just started to emerge as a respectable way to find lasting relationships in 2006 when I wrote my first Match.com profile. I was undergoing significant change. I was coming out of a 22-year marriage that ended with a painful divorce. I was getting my feet on the ground and was ready to move on to a new phase of my life. And I had no idea what to expect or how to do it. I was first married at the age of 22, and now I'm dating again. How do I write a dating profile? I figured out how to do it. I met many wonderful people and came away with lots of great stories. I also learned about how to best present myself in the midst of change. And ultimately, I wound up with a wonderful wife through the process. Your dating profile is created so you're putting your best self forward to make a successful connection. It's a two-way street of articulating what you have to offer and what you are looking for while trusting there's someone on the other side who will resonate with this message and a mutually beneficial relationship will result. So your Match.com profile is not unlike creating your resume and your cover letter when you're looking for a job. You're creating a description of yourself that includes a passionate articulation of what you bring to the table and what you are looking for in the next step of your professional journey. You're looking to create a meaningful connection. You are not begging for a job. You are not desperate. You're not going to twist yourself into something you're not just in order to gain acceptance. You're learning to present yourself with confidence to the outside world. You know you are giving your best when you are in a relationship where you are respected and valued. It's a mutually beneficial, it is mutually beneficial because the other party is also able to contribute their best. It's the ultimate win-win. Looking back to look forward is a great first step to move on into phase 2. You're not starting out from scratch. You have a history, whether it's 5, 10, or 30 years that has created you for this moment in time. You cannot go back and change a thing. Regrets are useless. Woulda, coulda, shouldas can keep you in a trap of either anger or a victim mentality that prevents you from seeing new opportunities and moving forward. You have survived those challenging times, and you're still standing. And you will this time as well. A client of mine, Gary, had a very senior position and was fired. He had a particularly difficult time reaching phase 2. So much of his energy was still focused on blame against those who screwed him over or by making excuses for what went wrong. He was not presenting a face to the outside world that would invite someone to take him on. Unfortunately, we've been conditioned at times of uncertainty to look at what's wrong rather than what's right. Those things that didn't go as planned for us years ago are the first things that come to mind, rather than remembering the substantially more wins. You can't start moving ahead if you're triggering that part of your brain looking to keep you safe. You're running forward into an exciting new phase, and you need your executive brain function in high gear to present yourself in the best possible way. You do have proof and evidence that you can do things well. Maybe some decisions didn't work out as planned, and you would like a do-over in certain areas. That's okay. And accomplishments will carry you forward. Of course, there's more to learn as you move forward, and maybe you'll learn to pivot your expectations. But keep in mind, you've got this. Your brain has stored all these prior wins in sophisticated networks. Those are retrievable by creating the opportunity to reach in and find them. That becomes possible when you force yourself to identify what you're really good at and evaluate what you have done well in the past. When you look at this data with the eye of an analyst, you see patterns that help you clarify what you want next and to create that new path ahead. Once you've done the reflection, it's time to put your message together in a compelling way that lets others know you're available and presents the best picture of you. The self-awareness is hard work. It takes a lot of introspection, honesty, and confidence to look at your expectations in a way that creates a willingness to be ready for something new. Some of it can be done by yourself, and you can also enlist others to support in this exciting exploration. It's often very difficult to do all of this on your own. We see ourselves in a certain way, and we don't see everything that others see in us. My oldest sister went through a difficult divorce very close to the time of mine. She was living in England, and I went to visit her. She knew that I was going through that I was doing online dating, and she sheepishly asked whether I thought it was something she should do and whether I could help her. We sat down at her computer and started working on her profile. Let me tell you, it was painful. She was reluctant to celebrate her wonderful qualities fully. She didn't truly recognize how those things that she took for granted would be meaningful for someone else. She didn't know how to be bold in saying what she was looking for in a guy because she didn't want to seem picky. She didn't realize that you are at your best when you are in a relationship where the qualities of both parties work together to make both people successful. You can only do that if you are honest both about what you offer and what you are looking for. I sent her away from the computer so I could write her profile. I knew her well. We had talked about what she wanted her future to look like as she moved into her mid-50s and on towards retirement. She came back into her office, read what I had written, and was floored. This really is me? Yep. I had only used her own words, passion, successes, and vision for the future when I wrote her profile. She was an English teacher, so after fixing some of my grammar and sentence structure, we took a few pictures of her in the garden, posted it on the UK Match.com equivalent, and waited. She had good responses. And after only a couple weeks, one gentleman in particular stood out. They started dating and were married a few years later. They were a good fit and created an amazing relationship where they were allowed each of each other to be their best selves. The point is, she had presented a picture of herself that exuded clarity and confidence. It's not attractive to read profiles or resumes of people who come across as desperate, willing to please everyone, or so arrogant you could never imagine being in the same room with them. It took my client Gary longer, but he was ultimately able to let go of the anger of his past. He took stock of the amazing skills he accumulated. He began to believe that this change could have a positive outcome. He crafted a message about himself that was now positive and forward-looking, and no longer had the tone of fear, entitlement, and resentment. Think about how this process helps you write your cover letter, which in my estimation is more important than your resume, even if no one ever reads your cover letter. Let me say that again. Your cover letter is more important than your resume, even if no one ever reads it. Your resume is an important chronology of the places you worked and the wins you had. It highlights your accomplishments and your capacity to do great work. It's a vital part of the job search process. The real truth is, so many hiring people doing the hiring managers or the HR will look at dozens of resumes that look like yours. Similar schools, number of years experience, tools you know how to use, etc. All really great stuff. The cover letter helps you differentiate from the rest of the herd. How do you bring to life the value that you and your experience brings to that hiring manager? That's where the narrative of a cover letter becomes so important. It's not only written down, it becomes part of your story as you talk to your network, to recruiters, and to hiring managers. You're able to talk in real words how you will use all that experience in your resume to bring value to the prospective company. You differentiate by showing passion for the work you do. You differentiate by connecting the dots about how what you've done in the past can make a difference for those you are talking to. Even if someone never reads your cover letter, you have written a narrative that makes you feel good about yourself, and you can use that as you step out and start having those conversations. The confidence of knowing what you bring to the table allows you to present yourself in the most impactful fashion. Now it's time to move forward into the dating phase after this phase is over. And it takes work to create that profile and resume. In order to do that, I work with my clients with certain exercises to help drive this phase. One of the exercises is to list 60 of your strengths. That's right, 60 strengths from all aspects of your life. You look, once those have written then, you look for patterns and find out what themes emerge. So as you look at those 60 strengths, you might see that working independently is one of your strengths, or creativity keeps showing up, analytical thinking, helping others, leading teams, etc. Use these buckets as a part of your self-awareness and how these can translate to the prospective employer. A second exercise is to write down every job you've ever held. Yep, even going back to mowing lawns or waiting tables. You go back and write down every job that you've had. And once you've done that, then you record the likes, dislikes, and the contribution you made in each of those jobs. Go ahead and write it, make those 3 columns, and in that last column where you list what the contribution you bring to each role, that's what excites you. That's what shows what I really did bring to the table. When you look at all these data points, you can then identify the patterns where you're happiest and where you were making the greatest contribution. You use these insights to inform where you are now and what you can look forward to as you decide to create your next move. Change can be difficult, whether it's by our choice or not. Too often we wander through careers and lives without being fully aware that we have more control than we think. Using the 4 stages of transition as a framework, you're better able to understand where you are in the cycle and can confidently take action in each stage to bring about the change you want and to be successful. Thanks. Mary, I'll turn it back over to you.
Tim Ressmeyer has partnered with Burtch Works to offer a specially priced program for the Birchworks community. He's partnered with Michael Evans of the 46 group on this program. It's 4 to 6 weeks, and included in that is 2.5 hours of executive coaching with Tim Ressmeyer to help you build clarity and confidence as you make these important decisions. 4 hours of consulting with Michael Evans to develop your summary and brand statement, and a rigorous review of your resume to help you write the best resume you can. Sessions are held virtually or at sites selected by the coaches. And the cost for the Birchworks community is $1,998, payable in 2 installments. And if you want to get in touch with Tim, you can find him at info@ressmeyerpartners.com, and his phone number is listed as well. Feel free to reach out to him about any questions or to hear more about his services. And thanks, Tim, for your presentation. Of course, I also have to put in a plug for Birchworks. If you're looking to add to your quantitative or research staff, we'd be happy to speak with you and do some brainstorming about what you might have planned in terms of hiring this year. We offer contingency and retained services from entry-level analysts, researchers, and data scientists all the way up to Chief Analytics Officer or VP of Research Searches. Feel free to send us an email if you want to chat. The email address is info@birchworks.com. You can also explore new opportunities or post your quantitative opportunity on our niche job board, which is trafficked by thousands of professionals in analytics, data science, marketing research, and much more. Aside from searches we're engaged on, we recently opened up our job board to all of our clients. So if you're just looking for a new targeted place to post your ads, definitely get in touch with us. We offer several options depending on how many roles you'd like to post. You can also follow Birchworks across our social media channels to stay up to date on our latest research. On our YouTube channel, found at youtube.com/Birchworks, you can find Tim's other presentations on topics ranging from the impact of confidence on career success, how analytics and data science professionals can make career goals, and how to improve your collaboration skills. And coming up soon, the results of our 2018 update to our most popular flash survey, SAS versus R versus Python. We had over 1,000 very passionate responses, and we're working on the data as we speak, so keep an eye out for a blog on that. And now it looks like we do have some time for a few questions today, so let's jump in, and feel free to continue to send your questions using the chat box on your screen. All right, Tim. One thing we've gotten a few questions about is how to work on networking skills and building relationships that way, and how that fits into the career search process.
Sure. No, that's a great question. And yeah, networking is just so vital. And that can be actually going out and going to networking events. It's talking to people within your own network. It's using LinkedIn and other online sources to network people as well. And that really does come in, and that's part of that sort of that move from stage 2 where you're writing your profile and preparing your resume. You're starting to do that networking then during that process. You're talking to other people to get a sense of what is out there. How do what I have to offer, how does that match with what's out there? Is that confidence to reach out to other people and say, what is it like working where you are, or what did you do to get there? When I was going through this process for myself, it was the networking part of what I did is I went to former colleagues and people I worked with, people, direct reports, bosses. It was kind of weird, but I would ask them, what did you think of Tim? What did you think I brought to the table? And then the hard question, what was I good at and what was I not good at? And so by being very honest with your network, the ones that you can trust for questions like that, you start to realize where you do fit in, what you do offer, things that others see in you that you didn't see yourself. And if all you're doing is sitting in your own head, writing your own future, your own resume, and only looking at job postings, you're not getting that real live interaction feedback that helps clarify that networking, the value you bring. And so get out there and do that networking.
All right, thank you so much for that, Tim. Another thing we've seen a couple people asking about is dealing with rejection. So do you have any advice for how to deal with the either repeated or continual rejection? If you're getting interviews but you're just not getting all the way to the offer?
Sure. Yeah, that's tough. And, admittedly, it is really difficult when, that, hey, I have a lot to offer and nobody's wants me. And that is hard. And being very conscious of that is important. If you've done that work and what we've described here in the second phase of just really looking at what's the value that you bring, that I do have a great resume, that I do have a lot of credentials, then that helps you buffer against the rejection that you might be getting. I use the example, for those of you who know me, I spent a long time in market research for CPG. I always draw the analogy of Tide laundry detergent. Okay, P&G was one of my clients, and Tide is a great product. It's got a premium standing. It takes out stains. It brightens colors. It smells great because it's got Febreze in it. Whatever. It's got all of these attributes. And it's just like you. If you've done this work and really looked at what you bring to the table, you have a set of really strong attributes, whether it's as a team builder, whether it's analytics, whether it's client-facing, whether it's subject matter expertise. But when you go out into the marketplace, just like P&G puts Tide out there, And you can't advertise everything that it does because then it becomes meaningless. So, P&G might go out and say the Tide, smells great and takes out stains, and which is true, but nobody's buying it, or it's not getting the return that they think. And so do they throw it away? Do they get rid of the product? They think it's terrible? No, they step back and they say, wow, maybe the marketplace is looking for something that smells great and brightens whites. And so then they reposition and they come out with a different message. What does the audience want? What they didn't do is throw away the product and feel like, they stunk, whatever. So it's the same with you. So if you're not getting the acceptance you want, if you're not getting the interviews or, following through, step back, look at all that hard work you did to see what you do bring to the table and say, does the marketplace want it? Who wants it? Am I talking to the right people at the right time with the right message? You are a product. You are a brand. So when you can realize during the face of rejection that maybe I can look at things differently about how I'm presenting myself, that can help you balance against that rejection and keep moving forward.
Great, thank you. Another question we've gotten is around when you're transitioning after having a gap on your resume and how to best approach, explaining a gap to potential employers in interviews, or, how to position yourself around that.
Yeah. There again, it's a lot of confidence. I mean, things happen. We all know that, and it depends on what caused the gap. People have gaps because of illness, because of moms and dads take time off when they have babies. It could be an employment gap that you were let go and it took a long time and there was a gap, or you decided to travel for a year or whatever. Yeah, those are all real things that happen. Here again, it's looking at yourself as bringing so much to the table that somebody out there really is going to gain value by hiring you on. So you want to be able to look again, what are the attributes that I offer, and explain the gap if you can. I mean, you don't have to offer up too much information. I'm a believer in be ready for it, but don't throw it out there unless asked. But then go ahead and unapologetically say, yeah, I shifted, I made a pivot, and I wanted to open my own company for a while, and it didn't work out, and now I'm back in the workforce. And guess what? I still bring this, this, and this, and during that gap, I've actually gained some new things. Can I tell you about those?
All right. And then we have a question about knowing when it's time to leave. So specifically, if you're in a tough work environment, maybe the company is struggling or some other reason that it's a tough environment, should you try to stay to finish up some projects, or when do you know when it's time to leave?
Yeah, that's tough, and sometimes you just really are in a lousy situation. It's tough to have the crystal ball to know what to do. What I work with clients in that situation is to really, first of all, to look at what their core values are. What's most important to me in my life, and how does that both transcend both your personal and your professional life. So if I am in this difficult situation at the company, why is it difficult? How much of it is because of misalignment with my values? If communication is one of my values and there's a lot of backstabbing and meanness, or I don't know what's expected of me, is there a way to fix that, or do I need to move on? If the company is floundering and there are problems there, then that's something else, because I want financial stability and I'm not sure I can get there. The other thing, though, is what are the obstacles that we create for ourselves, or what are the stories we write in our own head of why I can't be happy here anymore, or why I have to move on. So, it's not an easy answer, but take some digging both on what are the externals, what's really going on, what is really, really important to me in my life and my career, and then how am I influencing my decision right now by those different things, and be as honest and truthful as possible as you can with yourself.
All right, great. Thank you for that. Now for something maybe a little bit more concrete. What are your thoughts on using a skills-based resume versus a chronologically ordered resume?
Yeah. I like I like skills-based, but I've been told that the chronological are the ones that people are most often looking for. So I would leave that up to professional recruiters to answer that. I think that the skills-based is helpful in order to, especially if somebody's starting out and they don't have a lot of chronology to list and to bucket things. So I'm actually a fan of both, but whatever, because it does help. And what I like about the skills-based is it helps draw across from all of your experience to bundle together those things that really make a pop. And actually, one of the exercises I suggested for you is when you look at your past jobs and list what you liked, disliked, and what you brought to the table. When you start, that basically can create a skills-based resume. You start to see, you know what, I really have been happiest and most successful when I am interacting a lot with other people. So one of the things I bring to the table is my communication skills, whether I'm talking to clients, internal constituents, or elsewhere. So I like both. I'd say create both and then use them as appropriate as your recruiter recommends.
All right, great advice. And then from what you've seen when people transition into a new career, typically what's kind of the ramp-up time in the new position? How long should that what should that transition look like, and how long should it take?
Yeah, that's I have a lot of feelings on that. I mean, it takes a year to really get through it, because you want to go through the life cycle of an organization. Whatever company you're joining, there's a life cycle to the products, to their development, whatever. So a year is really the case. What I really find a lot with clients is, they'll come in and there's that excitement and nervousness as you go in. And, okay, there's that expectation that, I'm learning. Cool, I'm getting this. And then, a few weeks in or a month in, there's this crash. You go by, oh my gosh, I thought I was getting this. And now all of a sudden, why did they even hire me? I feel like an imposter, or, this is, harder than I thought, or, is this really going to work out? And then you plow through that, and then you're back on that upward trajectory of the learning curve, and you're going. And then a few months later, there's another, it drops down again, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is harder than I thought, or it's not working, or they're not going to like me anymore. So that's the ups and downs of the whole onboarding process. What we start to realize is over time, when you plummet, when you drop down a little bit, it never goes as low as it did at first. And so when you remind yourself, even though it's hard right here, I'm doubting myself through this onboarding, I've still learned a lot, and I have been contributing. And so you're often contributing more than you think, and it's okay to have those highs and lows. And then over the course of a year, or whatever, 6 months, a year, you start to realize, wow, I do have this, and this is going to work. So there is that ramp up. Especially when working with executives to high-level positions, having a coach to work with you through that is helpful, or really at any level. I'll say it, companies are horrible at onboarding new talent. You go in those first weeks, you're watching webinars, or you're talking to finance and legal and your team members, you meet 100 people and so forth, and you don't remember any of it. And so when you have a good process of onboarding where you're learning as well as meeting people over a period of time, that's very valuable. Or having a coach or a mentor, a third party who can help coach you through that brings success both for the individual and for the organization.
All right, perfect. I think we have time for one more question here. So we've actually gotten a couple about job tenure, and both what it looks like for people looking for a new job after they've been with the same company for a long period of time, or people who are looking for a new job after they've had a really short tenure, and any advice you can give around that.
Yeah, it comes back to what we talked about today is the four stages here. Is if you are planning on a breakup, how, whether it's after a short tenure or a long one, just really being really clear with yourself about what I bring to the table and what I'm looking for, and to be able to there are pros and cons whether you've been there for a short time or a long time. It's that's perfectly right. It's what it is. You can't change that. So what's the value of you having been there for a long time? Hey, I understand the life cycle of relationships with clients. I understand, things don't happen as quickly as they want. I understand transitions within a company. I've been there a long time, so I know what it's like to, have the company pivot or to have management change or to go through, all these different cycles that things happen if I've been there for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Man, there's a lot of learning embedded in that you can articulate to your prospective new hire. If it's had a short tenure, okay, you've also know what change is like, but it's a different type of change. You know what it's like to step in and step up right away. So that's something you bring to the table. If you have, and in this, these days where short tenure is more common and it's acceptable in a lot of cases, say, hey, I'm really adaptable and I am able to join a company and very quickly hit the ground running. That's something that I offer because I have had short tenure in places. So I think again, it's that confidence. It's all about you, and that's why I'm so big on confidence. It's being really clear and honest about how good you are and what you bring. Focus on what's right rather than what's wrong, and that helps you then see things more clearly, and you can then articulate, hey, what's the value that I bring?
All right. Thank you so much, Tim, and we appreciate everyone who submitted their questions today. Thank you so much for joining us.